YouTube, what's going on? Nice to see you. I get in these, well, not see you. If I'm seeing you right now, you should probably call the cops. I'm not seeing you at all. I'm speaking to you. What a great start. I'm in one of those moods where I'm just going to cast all night. This happens maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. But when I get into the mood to do this, I just have to do it. All right? It makes the content better. As short tomorrow, I'm going to regret it. I even have a stream, but whatever. This is a 1v1 between two high-level players, Ariat and MBL. And it features civilizations that used to be, at one point, top tier. There was a point where Koreans, because of their tower bonus, which was absurdly broken, was #1, actually. Like, it was getting banned in team game and 1v1 tournaments, and it had the highest win rate across all ranked 1v1s on Arabia with random civ. Crazy, right? And then there was also a time, and this wasn't too long ago, it was actually pre-definitive edition, so within the last year, where Franks were #1 on that list, based on Arabia random civ games. So I actually don't know if Riot picked Franks. Riot's a legend of the game who recently returned, or if he went random civ, but I think MBL's been going random civ on his Mike Hawk account. A little side note, my girlfriend, yeah, she's a big fan of Mike Hawk, but I'm not so sure if she's a fan of Koreans. So, nowadays, Koreans are a little bit different. I have a few other episodes, or a few other uploads, and I talk about the new bonuses for Koreans. Now, they still get the guard tower upgrade for free, that's great. They still get extra range per age, that's great, but they don't have build speed associated with towers anymore, and they also don't have build speed associated with fortifications, which is something that they had in the past. So now, actually, hold on, let me double check that. I just wanted to make sure it was gone completely. Yeah, now, might as well talk about while we're here, military units accept siege weapons cost minus 15% wood. That is what I call, quote-unquote, new Koreans. All these other bonuses, that stuff has been there for a long, long time. Except for this. This is pretty interesting. But anyways, in the past, they would go YOLO and they would tower rush, and that was about it. Because everything was so expensive for Koreans. Siege onagers and war wagons and turtle ships, so pricey, but I like that bonus. I remember when we were discussing behind the scenes with the balanced team, we have players and some casters, and we were talking about that idea, and I actually got really excited to see it, even though I'm not known to be a fan of the Korean civilization. So MBL, he is, we're not even going to touch on the fact that, we're not even going to touch on Mike Hawk. We're just going to call him MBL. Anyways, MBL, he's going to try and play Koreans to their new best. And then Ariat is going to try and play with Franks. And Franks are such a good civ. I'm sure many of you, if you played the game, started off with Franks. It's a great beginner civ, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad civ. I think it's a great civilization. And they have that berry bonus, which Riot is taking advantage of right now. They get extra HP on their scouts, feudal age onwards, which is fantastic. They get the free farm upgrades. They have the cheap castles. They have the best paladins in the game, as long as Lithuanian paladins don't have that extra attack from relics. So it's really a sick civilization. And now I want to talk about theories, okay? Bear with me. I guess you guys came to my video, so you're kind of in some way coming for this, but I'm going to theory craft a little bit. What are your thoughts on this, YouTube? So, in the past, all high-level players, pretty much across the board in ranked games, would play Arabia, very open lands map, and they would play random civ, which is what I want to talk about. Nowadays, the map pool just changed recently, which is nice, has more open maps, but there's no random civ queue. So if you want to go random civ, and let's say you get Portuguese, a fun civ, but probably one of the weakest right now in the current meta. And then someone at the same rank picks, let's say, what's top tier, Aztecs. You're kind of screwed. Like, if you're both around the same level, it's going to be tough to win in those situations, right? So what that creates is an environment where people pick civilization just so they don't get out-civved, and just so they don't go up against Aztecs, Mayans, whatever, is on the list every time and fall behind, right? So this is my theory. There are civs right now who that have been used in tournaments. There are civilizations that we have figured out on DE. Some things did change, the meta changed, what players are doing and how they're going to do it change. And here comes MBL. Sorry, as I'm talking, I'm not even like showing you the game. He's going to go for Drush Fast Castle. But my theory is there are civilizations that can be really strong in many situations. It's just people don't think it. They don't think about how strong they can be because it never gets picked. Do you know what I mean? Like Koreans, for example. I don't think it's a popular pick amongst pro players, and I understand it. It's kind of a slower civilization. However, if they get to certain positions in a game, they can beat any civilization. And you could say the exact same thing for Franks. Franks had a top 5 win rate. It was actually number 1 just 9 months ago. Has the meta shifted that much, or is it just because people are picking the same old civilizations? I don't know. I really would like to see random civs return, especially as a caster. But as a player too, and it might just be because I spend so much time on Age, but I kind of get burned out of the same old, so that's why I was so pumped for this Civ matchup. So my apologies for that long-winded explanation and question. So I am curious if you guys think I'm right on that, or if you think I'm just thinking about it too much. MBL has already walled his base, and he sent 3 militia forward with his scout. All he wants to do is be annoying. Now, Riot, he's going for what was the meta for Franks, his scout opening, and he's going to know just by seeing MBL's militia here that, well, MBL's not going to do anything in Feudal Age. This is just going to be so MBL can wall at home and delay. Riot placed two palisades there, which I'll explain later. That's actually just to see, it's like one of those things, it's not a bug, it's a feature, just so we can see what's going on. And unfortunately for him, he's going to have the scouts out. But he probably knows MBL's reputation, and he knows the strategy. MBL is going to be completely walled. There's something you need to do against that with Franks. First off, you got to make sure that you don't handicap your eco too much if you go aggressive. So sending villagers forward to tower, very common strategy against this because MBL's not in Feudal Age to make a counter tower. But also, should you send 4 villagers? Should you send 5 villagers? I think the norm used to be 4, but Riot's actually going for more of an eco approach and making sure that he's still taking his food and making sure that he's going to continue to farm away here with that bonus. MBL's militia are actually just, like, his whole army is just chilling over here, and Rio is actually just looking for that. Doink! And I'm a bit, I'm really surprised that MBL didn't try and harass more, but I think that he would have lost his units already. That's probably the logic. It took a while for Riot to come forward. He sees the end of that gold, and he sees this other gold over here, so he must know that's the main gold. And he is going to place a tower there, something that MBL cannot see. And here comes that pathetic army. Riot does not want to have to deal with that. But you notice, good farm focus. I like the T90 farm here, Riot. Well done. A good farm focus, good eco approach. And Franks are definitely one of those civs that... yes, a Drush Fast Castle might mean that MBL gets to Castle Age faster, but you have the economy to be stable and get there yourself, right? The problem is there's not much that Riot can do to stop MBL from going for like stone and going for war wagons, and that's really like that's one thing that Koreans can do really well now because of that discount. Which kind of brings me back to how do these civilizations perform in the current meta. Beautiful tower there for me. In fact, I don't think MBL's even realized yet. Oh, these villagers are so weak. And then you see the scouts have just come back because they can't do anything, and they clear up the militia. However, MBL is able to snipe a villager. So, well done. Idle here, idle here. Honestly, sloppy from Riot. Probably shouldn't have allowed that to happen. But, oh my god! Well, MBL shouldn't have allowed this to happen. MBL just lost 2 villagers, so there you go. The score is 6-1 for Riot, which makes sense because he killed 3 militia, he killed a scout, and then he killed 2 villagers. And anyways, MBL's on the way to Castle Age. And this is why Riot placed the palisades there. If you do this, you do have to spend the wood for the palisades, but you can then see over that palisade. So he can see MBL's on stone. And MBL currently is not mining any gold, though he might come over here. Now, if you might be thinking, well, T90, why didn't Riot tower this gold as well? He can see it's part of the wall. Why not tower it? And that just comes down to the fact that now MBL can counter tower, and it would take such a long time for you to send villagers forward to this area that it might be a wasted trip, and that your eco might be worse off because of it, and you might not find any reward. So there goes MBL to Castle Age. It doesn't have his wood upgrade, doesn't have that many farms, in fact, doesn't have a lot on food, doesn't have a lot on resources at all compared to the Brazilian. But this is what Koreans are good at. They turtle up. MBL saw this tower, so he's going to build his own. 3 villagers versus 2. I think Rietz is going to go up. MBL's got to make sure. I think that man is... he's either on fire or he's repairing. Okay. He was repairing that. That was really funny looking. It's like fire on his back. But yeah, when I saw this match, I thought, wow, this is so cool because you get to see what both civilizations do well throughout virtually every age. Riet definitely could have done slightly better with the... whoa, we've got like the... Whoa, do you see these farms? Controversial. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm too creative. But Riet could have done much better with farms. He should have more than 12 right now. So that's a mistake on his part, because he has the wood for it. But he got the early pressure in, whatever he could, and now MBL's got to decide on his next step. Now, MBL's obviously saving for a castle. This tower becomes a guard tower, which means he will protect this wood line probably indefinitely. I don't see how there's anything Riet can do about it. Again, Riet really needed to be farming earlier, guys. Maybe he'll make a market and maybe he'll buy some food, but with that much wood, you've got to look at that and think, well, 14 on food, maybe I want to shoot for 16, 17, build 3 more farms, something along those lines. I think what is in the back of Riet's mind, though, is that he doesn't want to farm around the mill because it's forward and MBL might show up there. Maybe. Good job from Riet to scout the map. He's in the process of doing that with the scouts he has remaining. And he knows that MBL is going to be going for war wagons because he sees this castle. Now, war wagons are still really pricey, but it's one of those units that if you get enough of them, it is really difficult to stop. High HP, high attack, just expensive. But they're cheaper now because of that 15% discount. So basically, Koreans, they can defend for most of your attacks. And then they have really strong but expensive units. Again, maybe not the most fun to play for a lot of high-level players because of how campy you have to be. But here come the war wagons. And while the castle time could have been better for Riet, Riet is on the way up. I have to say, Riet was a bit fortunate when he sniped those villagers at MBL's base. It was very possible he would have just taken MBL off gold temporarily, and MBL wouldn't have lost those vills. So they definitely got more benefit to that attack than you'd normally see. Bowsaw for MBL, and here come those war wagons, and Riet's got to make a decision on what to do. And Riet's kind of looking all around, like, well, what's he going to do? Where is he? He didn't seem to have a lot of urgency walling. And this is something, so small little story. This is something that a lot of the Brazilian pros do. They build house walls. Now, other high-level players, they will use houses as part of walls. Oh, wow, Riet's going to lose this stable. Again, in my opinion, a bit sloppy from him. But, you know, a lot of pros will build houses as part of their walls, but other pros would have had this palisade wall. But, you know, Riet, as far as I knew... Oh, guys, you're about to see... not really the highlight of the year, but at least the highlight of the hour. Check this out. Gate, house, palisade wall. Deleting the farm. House, palisade wall. House. Look at this. Look at this. Man, that TC is about to kill a war wagon. Those things are extremely tanky. Props to Riet right there, and that was a beautiful highlight. Let's talk about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, maybe even 15 buildings in there. Super messy eco, but Riet already on 2 TCs, 37 villagers to 43, slightly behind, but he has fended off the attack. Man, there's so much I want to say right now. I blame it on the coffee, but anyways, Riet is kind of known for his house walling. Instead of full walling his base, he likes to take his time. And I played against this guy named SC_Riet like 2 months ago. This is before anyone knew that Riet was coming back to the game. And I thought it was a Riet fanboy. And I said to him, "Are you the real Riot?" at the start, and he said, "I wish." But then I saw the house walls, and I said, "You are Riot, aren't you?" And of course I lost, right? And he was like, "Maybe. Don't tell anybody." And, you know, then he started to stream and whatnot, and it's great to see him back. Alright, focus, T90, focus. Let's talk about the game at hand here. 3 TCs for Riot. Has the farms. They last a long time with Frank, so he's definitely going to have the food income to catch right up there in the Vil count. He has a monk out. Now, that's one thing that you can do against the war wagons, is try and get conversions. But when there's this many, it's going to be tough. The MBL is going to use all the bonuses of Koreans here. He's going to get a second TC up, but more importantly, he has bodkin and armor already on the war wagon, so he prioritized aggression after the defense, and he's bringing villagers forward. This isn't for a castle drop, but MBL realizes how good those guard towers can be and how crucial map control can be, especially when he sees these golds here. I think he also realizes that the economy's so good for Franks that he's going to need to take some advantages before that eco kicks in for Riot. A lot of players might just stick to booming at home on a few TCs, but I think this is the better approach. You can't allow Franks to get to stone and think about their cheap castles to defend. One war wagon was converted. Riot goes for another conversion and gets it, so that's what you can do with the monks. The problem is it's still 100 gold per monk. Oh, wow, okay, MBL even getting a conversion there on the knight, and that tower is definitely going up. Such an annoying push to deal with. Again, more conversions. Sorry, I know that the orange color isn't the easiest to see. It's starting to take losses, and he also has quite a few idols. Meanwhile, MBL to home. Untouched. How is Riot going to deal with the war wagons? Well, he's already thinking about that. Again, with any other civ, you'd be worse off economically, and you wouldn't have the cheap castles to bail you out. So Riot's already thinking about going to stone, and thinking about building a castle in some area of his map to protect himself. The problem is, it's all about stabilizing for him right now, so I do have some concerns that he might not be able to make units to kill this. But can he delay? He comes in with the knights. MBL is now kind of torn. There's a TC here, he's got to be careful. There's a castle now going up. What does he do? And he has to fight the knights. I think that's what Riot was planning on. And now Riot runs away. Riot gets conversion, runs back with the monk. Might even keep that guy. Oh, never mind. He doesn't keep it alive, but he did deny this tower, and this castle should shoot this tower down. So, both players have now used castles to shoot down towers, which is pretty fascinating. This is still going to be a really annoying tower to deal with. MBL's still doing a good job to keep his war wagons alive. Now, there's the third TC. So, I just feel like my tip, and it always depends. If you ask me questions about age, I will tell you it depends. But my tip I give to mid-level players is don't boom before you take some map control. It's very civ dependent, map dependent, but with Koreans and something like war wagons, I think it's very important as MBL tries to quick wall in this villager and fails, and will also lose this villager. It's very important you take map, and then once you have the map control, you are booming with ease at home. Riot wasn't really a situation for him to try and take that approach in this game, so that's why he kind of fell on his back foot. But anyways, I'm just really impressed with how MBL has played to the strength of Koreans, and it's 65 vils for both right now. So again, MBL, these war wagons are cheaper than they used to be, but they're still not super cheap. He's got to keep those alive. It's 18 military versus 10. There's a 1 HP war wagon here. I didn't realize that Riot used a 1 HP war wagon to snipe that villager. MBL doesn't seem to care too much. He snipes some monks here. Loses a couple war wagons, but will get the towers up. That's 11 range. And that tower will deny this gold and deny this stone. Now MBL only has 6 farmers. Only has 6 farmers. Everything's pretty much been suited or built up towards stone, but especially wood and gold eco. So this is where if you look at his base, he's going to know that weakness, and he lost a villager there. But yeah, he's going to start adding some farms. Yeah, that combined with the fact he didn't even have a wheelbarrow. His eco hasn't been that strong. MBL sees this gold. He's going to try and wall in this tower. He sees this gold. He's pressuring with mangonels, and now he will see a castle. Look at Doubt's head poking out there. Another castle from Riet. Riet can't take this stone, so there's only so many castles he's going to be able to build. And if he uses gold... Oh, look at that villager dancing. He was deciding, like, do I go to church? Nah, I'm going to sleep in today. But if he uses gold to buy stone, then he has limited gold supply as well. But again, the castle's going to shoot that tower down. And it's going to stabilize this back area of his economy. Something I haven't talked about yet is relics. And while Riet won't be able to mine gold easily... 42 farmers for him, which is crazy. He's going to grab his second relic. It still has these scouts out and about, which is pretty cool. I feel like now MBL, he feels like he needs to shift focus. So he's going to send more villagers forward, another batch of vills. And Riet's obviously thinking about the Imperial Age, right? He could use that food and he could use that gold to make knights. But MBL has monks out. And MBL has a lot of war wagons. So I think Riet just wants to breathe. He wants to take advantage of his eco and his castles, treb this down, and then expand it even further, and then make knights later. And so MBL says, okay, now I'm going to come forward, and now I'm going to castle drop you. What a beautiful game. We've had towers, we've had castle drops, we've had defense, we've had offense from both players. I just love the situations in the game where they're able to defend. Like defensive play from MBL early into attack, and then Frank's offense into some good defense, and then cheap castles give you these options. Well, MBL, he does not see that this castle's going up. He actually could stop it, but doesn't see it, which is pretty unfortunate. Now Riet's going to research Bodcanero, not because he's going to make archers, but just for his castles. And you'll notice now MBL's food count's getting higher. So he's thinking, all right, have I done enough damage here? He might be on his way to Imp. And if he's on his way to the Imperial Age, he could tread my buildings down. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 town centers booming for MBL. The eco's starting. This is kind of funny. Riet has 2 leftover knights. He's not going to get through there. I love this game. I love this game. Again, I talked about my theories earlier as far as civilizations go. Koreans are a little bit more situational, but the fact that Riet was able to boom and survive all this crazy pressure is only possible with Franks. Franks and maybe Persians, but they don't have the cheap castles, right? I love it. And I think it was the correct call to go to the Imperial Age. He can take this gold for now. He'll take this stone soon, I'm sure, once he gets the resources for it. And MBL is just thinking, I've got to buy myself some time. So there's good news and bad news for MBL. Good news is that Riet doesn't really have military. So he's going to have some time. It's not like Cavalier are going to show up at his base. Well, Knights maybe. But it's not like Cavalier are going to show up at his base, right? The bad news is that he spent most of this game building towers, walling in towers, pushing with siege, even a forward castle. And now it seems like all that's going to fall. But this does give MBL time to macro and time to get his eco right. And if you think about it, he's been able to take all of his resources. Riet hasn't been able to take all of his resources. So there's pros and cons to it. But MBL's not even going to try and repair this castle. He knows that it's going to go down. Another positive for MBL is he has a lot of war wagons. But he is going to lose a castle in the front, so he has one castle that he cannot produce from, and he says, okay, whatever. I'm going to build a castle on this hill. So in terms of peak strength, with Franks, you're looking at Paladins. Paladins, throwing axemen, right? In a 1v1, if you're going to make gold units, you normally just pick one, because trying to diversify in a fast-paced game will be too expensive. So, Riet, it might start thinking Cavalier. MBL, I'd say his strongest gold unit is the Siege Onager, or maybe Bombard Cannons, maybe Turtle Ship, right? You're not going to see that. You rarely see those in 1v1s. And you can't see Turtle Ships because there's no water here. Okay, kill the wolf. Thank you. I was trying to keep tabs on that thing. So, MBL is making his ideal unit. You already see some stable upgrades and even some infantry upgrades coming in for Riet. He's going to try and get there. But MBL's going to mix in Halb, so he's expecting the Cav. So he's going to get some pointy boys. What I like about MBL's composition is that, as Riet uses scouts against a Maganel Beautiful, it's range and melee combined Franks, they don't really have good ranged units, so it's not like they can go Arbalest and help, you know? So it's kind of tough to know what to do against these war wagons, except for Cav. Maybe you could go for Halbs, but MBL's going to have his own help. So we'll see what MBL can do here. Not in Imp yet. 148 population for him. And Riot, is he poking his head out too early with these trebs? Bit of overconfidence, perhaps? MBL could have fired a bit earlier there. Come on, get that trebuchet. It's 4 HP. All right, there we go. He gets the trebuchet. I think Riot might be thinking, I wish I would have done a little bit more against the numbers of war wagons and castle age. Like, that's a thought that's got to cross your mind. Or then you could argue that he would have been an imp later and it would have never worked. But he's got to go for something. We see some throwing axemen. No cavalier yet for Riot. He actually has 3 relics, but they are on the front. MBL's taking his good old time. I'd say MBL is one of the best players at being annoying on the front and booming behind. Like, he has so much eco back here. We haven't talked about his base in the longest time. And he's just going to start to take control of the map. If he loses this castle, he's going to have this castle. It is bad that he doesn't have relics. But these war wagons, 150 HP. I think they should shred the axemen. There he goes. 45 farms versus 56. We have bearded axe pikemen. Iron casting. So Riot says, all right, T90. I'm going to get the throwing axemen upgrades. There was a time, I think a few years back, where axemen were actually buffed. And you could argue they never needed it. They're a sick unit. They also look really cool. Another castle for the Brazilian. So he's thinking halberdier with throwing axemen. It's a pretty strong combo. Because the problem is he still can't take this gold right now. 183 population. MBL now has bombard cannons. So bombard cannons give you some range. Great against the trebuchets. Great against the axemen too. So again, you're thinking, well, what should Riot do? I think maybe Cav, but he saw that MBL had the barracks and the answers to that. Here come the axemen. Bearded axe is in. Now, I can't tell you I've ever seen this before in DE. Throwing axemen against war wagons, but it really looks like war wagons are the best unit out of the two of them. I mean, just compare the HP. War wagons have 3 times the HP, and I think they also fire significantly faster. I think they also do more damage, and Riot is desperate to get that gold. He's using the trebs, which is helpful. And look at that KD for MBL. What can Riot do? And can he break this hold from MBL? There's so many trebs here. He loses that one. I think he's going to lose the rest of them. However, he did snipe some bombard cannons. These trebs are going... Oh my goodness, these trebs are doing work. Look at that. Are these Britain trebs? Are these Hun trebuchets? Jeez, that was much better than I expected it to be, but still pretty bad for Riot. No, I have a lot I can say, but the expansion from Riot, like, we haven't even been able to talk about it. Farms out here, castles. Farms out here, castles. Tell me he knows about that gold. He does know about that gold, so he could take it. Now, unfortunately, he's kind of doing it out of panic. He's clicking Cavalier. I really wish... Like, he never got to high army numbers. I really wish he would have stuck with Axemen, gone for elite throwing Axemen, and gone for a lot of halbs. Like 40, 50, 60 units and just committed to it. It almost feels like now he's falling behind and he's going to give up on what he committed to. And you commit that much time and that many resources to something, it might not work just because of lack of momentum. MBL still microing those bombard cannons, sees his castles being repaired. He's like, I don't care. Fight me. Fight me. Show me something. Alright. I've gone 50 game time minutes without making more than one Mike Hawk jokes. I'm really tempted. I'm really tempted. The monastery goes down. Alright, well, now that the monastery's gone, we can make dirty jokes, right? I love the control from MBL, too. To have the bombard cannons, to have the monk there healing. Maybe that monk's there so we could steal the relics once this castle's down. But it seems like this death ball is impossible to stop. This is crazy. 43 military, but it looks like there's 100 because these war wagons are so thick. Mike Hawk likes it thick, man. Alright, we got a small, awkward little raid with the throwing axeman. That's probably not going to do much for Rhea. That's the first time he's been at MBL's base since those weak knights arrived. And MBL's like, thank you very much. He actually has 1 relic back at home, so it's about to be 2 for him. Rhea has 180 pop, he's just waiting. He has full upgrades on the Cavalier, unfortunately cannot wait for Paladin. Let's see. Now, MBL doesn't have help. He did just get Elite War Wagon. 200 HP, 9+4 attack. Now, I'm going to show you the HP on the Cav. As you know, ordinary Cavalier. These are Frank Cavalier. Here comes MBL's pikes. Can the Cavalier do it? It's actually not bad. It's not bad. There's more Cavalier on our screen than there are war wagons. But all MBL needs to do is tech that halberdier. Get chainmail armor. Get a few more upgrades. Fall back to the castle for now. There's still not a real option for Riot to push that castle down. He lost his Trebs already. Just a case of Koreans stalling the game out. And MBL's also building keeps. These keeps have 13 range. So good luck expanding your economy, Riot. And after that, it's 170 population for MBL. It is 160 for Riot. And again, I've been really impressed with how he's been able to hold against all this pressure. But it's only going to get more difficult. It's only going to get more costly. 75 more kills for MBL. The war wagons are just insane. It's just insane. MBL will get the relics. He's firing with those bombard cannons, big old shots there, and the halb upgrades are coming in. Is he about to have full upgrades? Okay, I know Koreans don't get blast furnace. I think they get the final armor upgrade. Wait, doesn't it show me here? I think they do get, yeah, they do get the final armor upgrade. Thank you, Capture Age. I don't actually look at those things too frequently. Oh my goodness, those shots. Yeah, I think Riyadh sees the score now, and I think he realizes, man, Koreans are freaking strong. And he taps out. GG. So, ultimately, what won MBL the game was the map control he was able to gain with Koreans. So you play defensive, you get a spike of offense, and using those cheap war wagons, and then you take the map control with the towers. That is probably on land maps, on open land maps, how Koreans should play. I think a lot of people, even at the highest of levels, would get the war wagons out and then play completely standard behind it. 1 castle war wagon, 3 TCs for eco. MBL said, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off on that 3rd and 4th TC until I use my bonuses, until I use those towers. And it worked really well. Now, you might be thinking, T90, what on earth does Riot do? Like, these things are impossible to stop. Well, normally when someone shows up to my stream and they say, T90, how do you kill this unit when there's a lot of them? My answer is, you have to do damage before they get to them, right? Riot did as much damage as you could have ever hoped for. He killed 2 villagers because MBL wasn't paying attention on his gold. And still MBL got to war wagons and won. So then, you have to start thinking about taking advantages before the war wagons come out, because the castle is what you need to make them. So, if I'm being critical, and again, we're talking about top 25 players, so I feel like I could be, I think the castle time was too slow for Riot. 22:20, it could have been a minute faster. Could have been a minute faster. Also, if you recall, he didn't have walls. Like, he did have that beautiful quick wall, but something I always want to be in the back of your mind when you see quick walls from anybody is, that's a lot of clicking, a lot of time and focus that they're not putting into the important things in their eco or in their game, right? So, yeah, I think if I was going to be critical with Riot, he maybe could have been the Knights a minute or 2 faster. He could have had the walls up. And if that's the case, then maybe MBL struggles to gain as much of a foothold as he did. I do think that going to the Imperial Age was the correct move. We also could question the throwing axemen because it seemed like they did very little. But I can see why Riot tried the throwing axemen. He tried the throwing axemen because he knew MBL was going to go war wagon help. Ultimately, I like these Sifs. I think they can do very well. I think Franks are probably the more well-rounded civilization. in terms of 1v1 civs, but it was a great game. I kind of feel like if that was MBL against someone who wasn't top 20, the game would have been over a long time ago because of how much control he got. Way more food for the Brazilian. MBL had more wood, he had more stone, and he had more gold, and that's what won him the game right here. You can actually see, you can see where MBL started to gain a little bit of a lead, right? And Riot started to boom it. And this does not show towers. So if there were to be a spike here, if there were to be some type of statistic here on the timeline that would show us the towers, I think there's a huge rise in control right around here for MBL. And Riot just was unable to get out of that hole. So, as I said at the start, I'm going to be casting games all night. That doesn't mean you're going to see them all in one day, sorry, but there will be an upload tomorrow. I have some pretty cool 1v1 games planned. Do me a favor. I'm not one of those YouTubers who's like, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, and after the bell, you can check out my merch. I'm not that guy at all. But, if you could like this video, because I put in some extra time on top of my streams to cast that'd be great. People always say that the more likes that come on a video, the more it's recommended on YouTube, and I have no statistic to back that up whatsoever. The algorithm is very haywire, but if you can do your part, I'd appreciate it. If not, guess what? I still appreciate you watching and listening, and I hope you're ready for more Age of Empires tomorrow. You have a good one, guys. Thank you very much. And, oh, actually, I think the recommended video at the top right-ish is going to be another Korean game. If you want to see what Koreans could do, it was one Koreans versus Mongols, if you want to see it. Anyways, have a good one. We'll see you next time.